me be very clear. Anybody who's rooting for the US to default on their debt, I don't believe they quite understand the consequences. What debasement really is not a hard default. It's actually a soft default. Someone lends you money for 10 years, lends the US Treasury money for 10 years. You're highly likely, but not certain, highly likely to get your money back, and you've earned a coupon. That's what a fixed income contract is, a fixed coupon. But in 10 years' time, what's the value of the $100 that you lent at time zero? It's certainly less than $100 in purchasing power.
You have many ideas. There are many things you could pursue. The world is full of lots and lots of good ideas, lots of temptation. And if you see 100 things, you'll probably have 100 ideas about how to improve each one of those things. But you have limited time in the day, and the world's a very competitive place. And so if you're going to be successful, you pick the one thing that you are most passionate about, and you focus all of your intellectual energy, all your passion, all of your work on the one thing.
There's certain credit metrics that are well understood in the markets for corporate credits, from AAA rating all the way down to CCC rating. The metric that I love to focus on, and in fact, I had a paper that was published in the Financial Analyst Journal on this back in the 1990s, was EBITDA to interest expense. Now, EBITDA interest expense is basically pre-tax cash flow, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. You take that pre-tax cash flow and you divide it by your interest obligation, and it gives you a ratio of how much cash flow you have to pay your interest obligations on your debt. And as you can appreciate, if you go from AAA, the number was like historically around 10 times. You had 10 times the amount of cash flow to pay your interest expense. If you go all the way down to CCC, you're dealing with companies at CCC that have about one turn, which means there's no error. You're only making enough cash flow to pay your interest expense. If you have to roll your debt over to ensure that you don't default on your principal obligation, that's called a zombie company when it gets to be less than 1 times interest cash flow to interest expense. Well, where are we as a country? We're less than 1 turn. We don't even have enough tax revenues after what I would call your fixed cost obligations, which include military spending and entitlements. Once you subtract out those fixed obligations from your cash flow, the amount left over to pay the interest is less than the amount of interest that is accumulating on the debt. That's the definition of a debt spiral. If the USA was a company that had the same credit metrics as the USA, it would be rated CCC. Now, what does the USA have that a company does not have? It has the ability to print money. And therein is the secret sauce that allows this fiat Ponzi to continue. So, am I surprised it was downgraded? No, I'm surprised it took them so long to figure out that it should be downgraded. But S&P did it 12 years ago. And it's only 1 notch below AAA, the gilt-edged or pristine. It's AA plus now. The reality is, in my opinion, it should be way further down the credit spectrum, to the point where I'd argue, probably a BBB type of credit rating. Even though its interest expense is way worse, or cash flow to interest expense is way worse, you have to be careful, or you have to acknowledge the ability to print money.
And you figure out what you stand for, right? I mean, oftentimes I describe a pyramid, right? At the top of the pyramid, there's the one thing I say and I focus on publicly, right? Bitcoin advocacy, Bitcoin education. There's the 10 things that I need to do to stay alive, right? I need to cook or clean or move or whatever it is. There's 10 things. But, I'm not posting videos about, my sleep habits or about my exercise habits or about all the other things I do at work, or how I clean out my desk, or how I commute, or my opinions about crossing streets, right? Right. I got to do those things, right? You jump in the water, you don't know how to swim, you drowned, and it's all over for you. So I have to do it, but it doesn't mean it's what I share with the public or what I focus on. I don't harbor any illusions that I'm the world's greatest swimmer, or I'm the world's, greatest diet advocate, or the world's greatest exercise advocate, or even, whatever it is. I occasionally I buy Bitcoin. I'm not telling you how to buy the Bitcoin, right? There might be someone that's better at it. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it. I'm not going to give you advice on this bank, that counterparty, etc. Even though I have to do those things, but I recognize with a sense of humility that that in and of itself, if you want to do a review of every Bitcoin custodian in the world, in every country, with every tax jurisdiction, that in and of itself is a full-time job, right? So focus. And then, of course, I have hundreds of opinions. I could give you an opinion on everything under the sun, right? I keep those for my friends and my family, right? I mean, you can share your opinions about, what's your favorite color, and whether you like cashmere fabric, or what kind of shoes you like to wear, or political opinions or business opinions. But if you think of it as a pyramid, at the top of the pyramid is the one thing that you're going to stand for in this world, where you're going to make your living, right? Focus on the one thing. Keep the 10 things, do the 10 things, because you got to live, right? And the 100 things I keep to myself, right? Or keep to your close circle. And I think that if you have that formula, I think you'll be most successful either in advocacy, or in education, or in entertainment, or in execution.